3, 2, 1. You're now tuned into USSFCU Spotlight, where real conversations meet real people. Today's episode, Hope, Shelter, and Stability, hosted by our unofficial MC, Eddie Villanueva.
Welcome back to the Spotlight Podcast. We are shining a light on the Carpenter Shelter, a 40-year beacon of hope in Alexandria, Virginia. I'm your host, Eddie Villanueva, and it's a pleasure for us to see you connected to our podcast, and thank you so much for your support. And today, I'm not by myself. I'm joined by...
Hello, my name is Shannon, Steene. I'm honored to serve as the Executive Director of the Carpenter Shelter.
And my name is Meghan Cole, and I am the Development Manager here at Carpenter Shelter, and I've been here for a little over 3 years now. It's a pleasure to be here with you all today.
Thank you so much for joining us. We're so delighted, that you're here with us. It's such an honor. And we want to highlight this nonprofit because you do so much for the community that perhaps the audience they don't know about. And that's the reason why we want to hear all that information, all your experiences. So why don't we get started? All right. For those listeners and viewers that perhaps are not familiar with Carpenter Shelter, tell us a little bit about Carpenter Shelter and how did it start?
I'm happy to field that one. Carpenter Shelter is providing the widest array of services for people that are homeless in the city of Alexandria. We have a small army of people that make that happen. In total, there's a little over 900 people a year that receive services and support from Carpenters. We partner with 1,200 volunteers a year from our community in order to help make that happen, and then a few dozen staff. And between that and a few hundred of our donor households, there's something magic that happens when all of that comes together, whether we're providing year-round emergency shelter to people that need that as a resource, a day shelter for people that are chronically homeless. When the cold weather hits, we operate a hypothermia shelter to make sure no one is outdoors and freezes to death overnight, and a variety of other services. The main goal is if we can walk alongside and help people move from homeless to housed, we're pretty happy.
Wow, that's amazing. And then how long have you been with the Carpenter Shelter?
So a little over 3 years now. I actually started out as their volunteer coordinator, and since then I have taken on a myriad of different hats and roles. Currently, I help support our development and fundraising efforts and our community partnerships. As Shannon mentioned, we have a tremendous amount of community support that really makes our mission possible. To me, what stands out as really unique is what we do is not so different than what the USSFCU does and represents. You all really are about providing stability and trust in the community. And that is kind of what we stand for as well, whether it's, building financial understanding or housing stability. Together, our understanding of helping people get from struggling in a situation to success is really ultimately what we're all about in the community.
I like how you emphasize that, support from the community. That's, something that we are very proud of here at USSFCU. That we are looking for those people that want to make the difference, and that's what makes a difference with Carpenter Shelter, because you see all the pictures, you see everything going on the social media, the news articles, but only you know what goes behind the scenes. Only you know what goes behind the scenes. One of the things that I want to highlight, and I wanted to ask Meghan, is what are some of the most memorable milestones that Carpenter Shelter have reached, maybe on your tenure or throughout the history as well?
That's a great question. So 3 years is a short period of time, but also a long period of time. Yeah. And it's so amazing that we have achieved so much in our services throughout that time. The two main things programmatic-wise that stand out to me is in 2023, our North Henry location, known as the Hoffman Center, actually transitioned to serving primarily families.
Wow.
And then just a little over a year ago, we actually assumed operations in partnership with the city of Alexandria of operating our second shelter on Mill Road, the Alexandria Community Shelter, where we primarily serve single adults. So that alone is very amazing just to see how much we could achieve in that short period of time. But really the most memorable moments for me are oftentimes the smallest moments that people tend to kind of take for granted in life. For instance, it's really seeing a child having access to a Halloween costume and going trick-or-treating for the first time. or a parent having the autonomy to go holiday gift shopping for their children. Someone putting on a warm winter coat that doesn't necessarily have folds or is 2 sizes too small. Having access to a warm shower instead of having to use body wipes. Those sort of things that we oftentimes overlook and just easily have access to that our clients may not on a day-to-day basis. That is what stands out most to me.
Wow, that was very beautiful because, we wake up in the morning, at least in my case, for example, I just wake up and I'm like, which jacket I'm going to choose? Oh, let me just turn the faucet because I need to brush my teeth or anything like that. I know everybody has that opportunity, those blessings, So you making that difference, like you're saying, those are the moments that stand out to you. And I think that's what inspires you to keep going and be like, you know what, this is the reason why I wake up and I come to the office, Besides, working with amazing Shannon, but one of those things that, I'm making a difference in that community. So what are just some of the milestones that you want to highlight based on your career with Carpenter Shelter?
Yeah, so I have been on Team Carpenters for a decade now, 10 years. And the 2 big things that stand out for me, first and foremost, when I started, we were operating out of an old Department of Motor Vehicles space. And just before coming here, Meghan and I were both in the Hoffman Center, which is now a 7-story building. And there are 97 affordable apartments up above us. And so when I was hired, part of what I was tasked with was negotiating an agreement and helping bring that vision to reality. So to see from being in an old Department of Motor Vehicles building and the same plot of land now today has that 7-story building, and there are dozens of families in permanent housing up above, and there are about 16 families in shelter below, and a variety of other things going on. I think that's certainly a highlight to see how we worked on our infrastructure and capacity, which sounds so unsexy, but I love thinking about how we are really built for at least another generation or 2 of service to this community. And I think that's just phenomenal. I think the second big memorable thing for me was living through the pandemic and what that was like when you're operating a facility that by definition can't close. And how do you remain a resource that's available for people in crisis when at the community as a whole there's so much new and different and chaotic going on. And it was just beautiful to see that amid that bananas context, that the community banded together and made sure that what was needed for people that were struggling was there and available, given wholeheartedly. And there was just something truly beautiful about that.
Yeah, I think that the pandemic was definitely a challenge, for everybody. But, when we talk about Carpenter Shelter, hats off to you all because, dealing with those struggles while still getting the help that you need, I'm sure that it was definitely like an obstacle. But hey, you managed to do it. You have the strong team, the strong foundation. You're talking about that right now. You have the foundations for generations to come. And as we were saying earlier, in the podcast, we were introducing Carpenter Shelter. You've been around in the Alexandria community for 40 years, correct?
Just shy of 40 at this point. And it's been a wild ride. When we were building the new building, I often told the history of Carpenters, and I used the spaces that we've operated out of as a means or a vehicle for telling that story. And the story goes like this. It was a cold winter night in the early 1980s, and there were 2 people that were going to sleep on the doorstep of Blessed Sacrament Catholic Church. And the priest said, no, we got to bring them in and at least have a roof over their head at night. So we brought them in, and pretty soon more people that were homeless started showing up, and then there were 10 cots in the basement of the church, and a casserole brigade started, and pretty soon that's the birthing story of how Carpenter Shelter came to be. So church basement, they were going to then renovate the church, and someone donated warehouse space, and so Carpenters moved into a warehouse where literally there were ropes with sheets over it in order to create the rooms. And to hear some of the stories from back then and talk to people that were involved, sometimes the most minute details stick in their mind. And one of them was that as people were lined up for dinner, there were other people that were doing their laundry. And so the smell of laundry detergent and the dinner that was being provided all in such close proximity in that warehouse. Pretty soon that warehouse was going to be redeveloped, and so Carpenters moved to a different warehouse and then bought the old DMV. Then when we were going to redevelop the old DMV, then it was a move to the old Macy's and the Landmark Mall, and that was still standing.
That's
and
right.
we built out the Macy's as a temporary location where we were for 2.5 years, all while knocking down the old DMV, digging a big hole in the ground, putting up the 7-story building, and we were honored to move in very late 2020 as the pandemic was going on. That it's been a wild ride. And amid all of that, the through line for all of it has been the generosity and the engagement of the community in the work and mission of Carpenters. It sounds hokey, but I feel like I've got the best seat in the house for seeing this community's generosity. That it is something that once you witness it, it's hard not to love it.
I agree.
It's hard not to love it.
Yeah, definitely. And what stands out to me about what you say is that right now I can go to your building, and then it's so beautiful and well organized, but where it came from, it was a process, because it didn't happen from one day to the other.
Yep.
It didn't happen like, oh, well, let's build this building, let's start building this, 7-story building, and then we go from there. Like you're saying, it started from the church to the DMV, even the Macy's, for the structure and things like that. So it baffles me how sometimes we see everything once it's already executed and fully operational, but all that support that you're saying, that you see, all the engagement that you need to do, because I'm sure that you have to convince people like, hey, this is the vision that we have, and that's the reason why you say you're so passionate about it. So, and based on that, Meghan, based on what Shannon was saying, like we were saying, once again, Carpenter Shelter has been around for 40 years. What do you think is the key to success? Why do you think it keeps impacting lives from 40 years ago? And I'm sure it's going to be from generations, as Shannon was saying earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Shannon hit 2 key points that really is attributed to our longevity and where we got to where we are today. Those 2 words being adaptability and generosity of the community. If it wasn't necessarily for the generosity of the community and understanding that homelessness itself is not necessarily an individual failure, but it is a call for collective action from the community to get involved, to help sustainably get someone through a situation of crisis. It is really that one act of kindness that can make a tremendous difference in getting someone to that point. And being so flexible and understanding that homelessness is not black and white. It's not simply about just putting a roof over someone's head to solve it. It is really addressing those root causes of why they are experiencing that crisis and what needs that we can adapt and overcome to help them get to this point. That has really helped us support the amount of people we do, not only in a given annual year of over 900 people, but within the over 40 years that we've been established.
I think what I can get out of everything you said is to be open-minded when it comes to homelessness. Because sometimes people think it's like, oh, they don't have a home and that's it. Or they made the wrong decisions and that's the reason why they're in the situation they are. There's so much behind it, I know there's like a lot of studies out there, but you see it all, and like you're saying, it's the community coming together for those individuals. Because perhaps we're not going through that, but you never know in the near future, that could be one of us needing the help. Correct. So, yeah. Shannon, so Meghan was highlighting, some of the things that comes with homelessness. Is there something that you would like to highlight that people might not realize about homelessness? Besides, like she was saying, it's more than putting a roof on top of somebody's head. Is there more that you would like to emphasize that people can understand for the audience?
Yeah, I think the main, I didn't realize that tidbit, that when I'm talking with people that I usually see as a reaction from them, we ran some data and about half of the people coming into shelter are already working. They already have earned income. It's just not enough. And so for us, the challenge is then to look at what is that job that's already in place, and is it an additional job on top of it? Is it a different job instead of that? And then for that half that's not working, clearly we need to be helping them figure out, how do we get some earned income in? We can get people placed in housing, but their ability to maintain it is so tied to their ability to earn the revenue, to earn the income that will support that long term. Carpenter Shelter thinks the residents that we work with are great, and yet we hope we don't see them again in the shelter.
Yeah.
We want to help them during their time of need and for it to be a catalyst for true change for their household. That if we can help them one time, that's great. We love them. We just hope we don't see them again in the shelter.
Maybe as a volunteer, right?
So let me do a quick little cul-de-sac story here. So 2-3 weeks ago, I stopped in at the shelter on a Sunday morning, and there was a new person at the front desk, and our front desk is staffed by volunteers in the community. And so I said, "Oh, hi, my name is Shannon. I'm, proud to be the executive director here." And she said, "My name is Talia." She said, "This is my first shift." And I said, "Great. If there's anything we can do to make your shift, work better, your experience to be positive, we want to know that. Please let us know." And she said, "Actually, I've been here before." And I thought, "This is your first shift that you've been here before?" She said, "Well, it's been 16 years, and I was here as a resident."
Wow.
She said, "It just took me quite a while to get back here, but I knew when I left, I wanted to come back and help." And she said, "You won't see me on any list of graduates of the program because I didn't leave here successfully." She said, "You tried everything you could. You helped me get a job. You encouraged me to stay longer, and I wasn't ready for that, so I just left." But she said, "I knew I was coming back, and today's my first day." I thought that was great. She might have taken her 16 years, but she was there.
That's
It was
amazing.
great.
A full circle moment,
Absolutely.
And then I like you kind of like put that thought in my mind and picking my brain about learning more about this, because sometimes you think like somebody shows up and they're like, "Oh, I need a home. I don't know where to go." You just take them in, but you just don't do that. You take, the extra mile to say like, "Okay, what's your situation? You don't have a job? Okay, we can help you with that. You have a job, but your income is not enough. How can we get you that extra help, like you were saying, extra income for you to maintain yourself and get that, forever home, if you want to call it, or temporary." But I like that, because sometimes people think like, "Oh, that person that's being affected by it, they just show up and okay, Shannon's gonna take them in, feed them, and call it a day." But it's more than that, because you're investing in these people. Just like this young lady, like she was like, "Hey, you gave me all the resources. I didn't live in the best terms, but hey, I'm back because I want to give back, because you made such a great impact in my life." And I think that speaks volume.
Yeah.
So, let's talk about the range of services you offer. Can you walk us through what someone might experience from that moment they arrive at the shelter?
Yeah, absolutely. I can definitely walk through
Roll
that.
with it, Meghan.
We talked a little bit about how each individual that we see or family that comes into shelter has their own unique story. And I think that kind of attributes to each person's story of when they first come into shelter differs, but what we tend to see is that the first thing that each person needs when they come in is a sense of reassurance, understanding that not everyone may have had their story heard or listened to. So our staff and our volunteers and our donors really are there to reassure them that you are not alone. You are in a safe place and that you can overcome this. Many of them may have access to a warm meal for the first time in a very long time, or a hot shower, clean sheets for their bed. So really it's the first step of helping them realize that this is not a defining moment of your story, but something that you can overcome, is what we tend to see.
I like that you reassure them like, "Hey, this is temporary. This is not your life going forward, and this is all you need to deal with." Like you're saying, you give them that reassurance, that support, like, "Hey, you're going through some struggles. There's a storm going on in your life, but you know what they say? It cannot rain forever, So I think that's where the Carpenter shelter comes in place, and let them know, like, "Hey, you're going through some struggles, but hey, we're here to help you." And like you're saying, it's not a judgment zone. Nobody's pointing fingers like, "Oh, why did you get to this point?" To the contrary, let us help you so you can be successful. Yeah. Now, talking about the different, services, and you were saying you take them in, you take a house-first approach. Can you explain what that means in practice?
Sure. Housing First is built on the philosophy or the mindset that people are going to be most open to change if they're not worried about where they're going to put their head on the pillow at night first. I was listening to someone, and she was talking about, for people that have substance abuse issues as part of their background. And she said, look, housing shouldn't be a reward for recovery. Housing is the foundation on which recovery is built.
Wow.
And that is really speaking to what Housing First does. And so it says such a very base primal need that people have is the assurance that they know where they're going to be at night. And once that is in place, then they've got more openness to change other aspects, whether it is substance abuse that's part of their background, whether it's a mental health challenge, whether it is domestic violence that they are figuring out how do they navigate around. If you start with that overt problem and say, once you handle that, then we'll help you with housing, the studies show that it's much less effective than if you start with housing and then work on all of the other things after the housing is taken care of. And that's at the base of what Housing First is and how it works.
You know, I liked how you both are highlighting that no, everything stops at shelter. You know, even the school, Carpenter shelter, because you're taking people in, and there's more to it. Like you're saying, the mental, portion of it, substance abuse portion as well. You provide that support. And then one of the things and services that you provide is called David's Place.
Yes.
Right, correct. So case management and family services as well. Can you tell us a little bit of how the program works and how does it help the families?
Sure. So we've got a variety of services, and any given night of the year, we are operating 128 beds of shelter in our year-round emergency shelters, whether it's at the Hoffman Center, which has families with children, or whether it's at the Alexandria Community Shelter that we operate in partnership with the city, which is primarily for single men and single women. It has a small handful of families with children there as well. But that's the year-round support. When it gets cold, that's when our hypothermia shelter, or what we call our winter shelter, gets up and rolling. That picks up an additional 50 beds at night. But throughout the year, there are people that can come to David's Place, which is our day shelter for people that are chronically homeless. And David's Place is open 6 mornings a week. People can come in, they can take a shower, they can do their laundry, get those really base needs met. They can have some continental breakfast and work with our staff. It's for people that really, when they first come to us, don't seem interested in coming to shelter, and they don't seem interested in working with us on permanent housing. We're happy to help them meet those base needs, but part of what we really hope is going to happen is that we will get to know them enough that we know what their interest is in being housed and having something more stable, and that they will know and trust us enough to talk with us about that. And so David's Place may look like it's just handling very superficial needs, but really it's about a relationship and trying to embed some level of understanding with people that have really been struggling for a long time. And so sometimes the progress is slow, sometimes the progress doesn't look really all that linear, but what happens over time is we help people move from homeless to housed. And I think the demonstration, I had mentioned that there are 97 apartments up above our Hoffman Center, and 10 of those are what's called permanent supportive housing. What is permanent supportive housing? It's a very small, affordable, efficiency apartment. Think like 350 square feet. And so we have moved people that have been chronically homeless that would otherwise be downstairs taking a shower and doing their laundry at David's Place, and we lease them up in those units.
Wow.
And they become stably housed, and they can now take a shower in their own home, and they can do laundry in their own home. And I had mentioned how with Housing First, how you're so much more open to taking care of some of those other problems if the housing is handled. I can tell you, when you look at those 10 residents, even the difference in their posture, how they carry themselves, the things that they are suddenly willing to work on addressing in partnership with our staff at the shelter, it's pretty amazing to see. We ran some data when we first moved the people, the first 10, into those permanent supportive housing units. The average length of homelessness was 9 years. We were talking some people who had been very unstably sheltered for a long period of time. And many of those original 10 are still housed, and we're 5 years in. It's pretty darn amazing to see.
Yeah.
And I'm super proud about it.
No, and I like that one of the words that you said, Shannon, was trust, So perhaps these people will go to Carpenter Shelter, they don't know what to expect. But by doing the, David's Place program, they can be like, hey, these people actually care for me, it's all about building that trust, honestly, because perhaps society has done them, wrong, perhaps nobody has that support, and then that's when you come with this program, and it's like, hey, we're here to help you. But other than, you showering and washing your clothes, there's more help for you out there. So you don't know what you don't know, and that's the reason why you do that soft introduction per se, so that way they can get introduced to these programs. Thank you so much. I'm learning so much. I'm enjoying my time with you all. I wish it could be more longer, but we're gonna go through the questions that we have as well. So we know that we are around the holiday season. Around the holiday season, everybody wants to give. They want to donate, they want to give, and then Carpenter Shelter comes to mind to give your donations and things like that. But we know that people are not only homeless during the holiday season. You don't need to get fed only when it comes to the end of the year. The work that you do is 365 days a year. 366 is if like 20, if it's February 29th, 366. So 365 days. So that's something that perhaps people do not realize. So what would year-round community support look like?
That's a great question. So it looks like our 1,200 volunteers who roll up their sleeves, answer calls at the front desk. They really are the first voice or the first face that someone hears and sees when they're seeking services. So it can be the defining moment on them getting to a point of finding access to resources to get housed. It looks like our volunteers who make meals in our kitchen and ensure that our families and individuals have access to nutritious food 365 days a year. 3 meals a day that we provide, all which tend to be provided and served by our volunteers in the community. We also have a tremendous amount of donors who get involved with our supportive services and ensuring that our services are able to run 365 days a year for those 40 years that we have been in service. Those services are never ending. There's always availability to get involved volunteering or donating. The easiest way to learn about those things and stay tuned for what we do have going on, not only through the holidays but year-round, would be to visit our website, carpentershelter.org. We continuously put information up there. You also can follow us on social media to stay up to date. When we are talking about the holidays, of course, there is a tremendous amount of things that are going on. The 3 things that do come to mind that we are actively in need of support currently for that would be meal services always to help support our residents with our hypothermia or winter shelter opening. We have clients that are going to need nutritious meals then. And then, of course, since we are operating 2 emergency residential shelters, those 3 meals a day for over 120 people are needed as well. Stocking our pantries to ensure that we have access to not only support our in-shelter clients, but our community clients when they may not necessarily have access to those things in the community. And then, of course, weather's getting colder, so our coat drives are coming up. Those are really the first instances of people being able to have something to keep them warm whenever they're leaving the shelter and being forced to be in those cold temperatures. My personal favorite is the holiday time frame during Christmas, where we actually do give the parents autonomy and being able to shop toys for their children. So we are collecting toys to be able to support that need as well.
I like that you highlight how volunteers are very important, because without the volunteers, none of this will be possible. You say 1,200 of them?
Yes.
Shout out to all 1,200 volunteers that help Carpenter Shelter, honestly, whether you do it throughout the holidays, you do it throughout the year, your job doesn't go unnoticed. Thank you so much for, everything that they do. And then volunteers, do they need to be individuals? Can it be groups? If, let's say a group, or let's say, I'm so passionate now about Carpenter Shelter. And I'm like, you know what? I want to tell my uncle and my cousin, we want to bring the whole family, to make a family project. What kind of opportunities do you offer besides the ones that Meghan, for groups, that perhaps are interested to, invest their time, whether they have a lot of time or maybe one day or just little time for them to contribute to your cause?
Absolutely. Anytime you have 1,200 people that come together to get involved in some way, shape, or form, you learn and you have as part of your skill set on the team figuring out how to engage that many people in meaningful ways in the work and mission of the shelter. And so whether it's individually, whether it's groups that are coming in, whether it is a one-time opportunity or whether it is a recurring scheduled thing, we have a full-time staff person that is riding herd over listening for what's the skills, what is the availability, and what is the interest that they have, and matching the needs of the shelter up with that skills, availability, and interest. And so if you want basic information about volunteering, carpentershelter.org with a /volunteer has great information there as far as the technical process. But if you're just in the, I've been thinking about this and who can I talk to, give us a call at the shelter and we'll connect you with our volunteer coordinator, and they are happy to talk through what some of the possibilities might be.
So whether you're an introvert or you're an extrovert like me and Shannon,
That's right.
And Meghan, I know you engage with the community a lot. We have there's opportunities for you. No matter what the skill is. Maybe you're like, you know what, I'm a little shy, but I'm very good with hands-on things. You can be behind the scenes. Or if you wanna be in front of the scenes and talk to the people that you're helping, there's an opportunity for you as well. Wow, I love this a lot.
Absolutely.
What I like about our volunteer program as well is that, as Shannon mentioned, we have our day-to-day, year-round opportunities that volunteers can get involved in. What makes that unique is there's so much flexibility in that and time commitment, since we do have a ton of different openings available through both of our emergency residential shelters. But a second aspect of it is oftentimes what we will see from people who are just really generous and wanting to give back to the community is that they have a unique skill set that maybe we haven't thought of, and they bring it to our attention, and we're able to be like, maybe that is something our clients do want to utilize. I think a great example for that is wine painting. Things are becoming very popular in society. Now, obviously, we don't necessarily do wine paintings at shelter, but some of our volunteers have reached out and said, I want to host a painting, fun little activity for the children in shelter and give them something great to do with the skill set that I have.
Awesome.
And we're able to bring that in and really make our clients, our families, our individuals have access to resources that they may not have had if it wasn't for those people reaching out.
That's beautiful. Sip and paint with orange juice. You heard it. You heard it. But that's so nice because you keep them involved, while they're, reciting together or they're going through the same struggles. Then, when you do those activities, perhaps you can find that person that's going through the same struggle as you. And you're like, wow, I thought I was the only one. But actually, I can relate to you because, you're going through the same thing. And let's, keep each other being supportive and learn from each other as well. So, wow, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And then we're talking about building their trust, for the people that you're helping, building those community connections. So having the community involved helps your residents feel connected and supported. How does that look like? Having the community involved, how does your residents feel comfortable with the community being involved?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting when you're in shelter and you talk to the residents that in some ways, when they first come in, and Meghan had talked a little bit about the experience from the eyes of and the perspective of a new resident. I can tell you as a staff person that sees new residents come in for the first time, there's nothing worse than the look in the eyes of someone when everything that they've known for stability and where their apartment or their house was has gone away, and they're nervous, they're scared, and they're coming to a homeless shelter that they don't necessarily know anything about. And just that fear and anxiety is so very strong, and it will break your heart in a moment. And so the onus is on us Carpenter Shelter, the staff, the volunteers, everyone who engages in the work and mission to provide some reassurance. And the good news is there's nothing cooler than the look in the eyes of a resident when they lease up and they get an apartment and they're getting ready to move out of shelter. And so we do a thing at Carpenters that we call Shake the Keys, which when a resident gets leased up and it's their last day in shelter and they've packed all of their belongings and they're getting ready to go to their new apartment, we gather all of the staff and the volunteers that are in the building and we bring them to the vestibule. And the staff person that's worked with the client talks a little bit about what their situation was when they came in, the pieces that they put together, and then just a little idea of where they're going and what's before them. And it's a great way for not only the staff, but the resident to understand that this is the start of a new chapter for them. And literally, we will, whatever keys you've got in your pocket, you pull them out and you shaking them, those keys for all you're worth,
Awesome.
which is wonderful. And to hear the joy and the celebration, and to be reminded that this is something to celebrate. This is why we do what we do, which is great. And for the resident to feel that aspect of it, for the resident to see the hit parade of volunteers coming in for us to literally bring the community in, they feel that, they sense that, and it helps them feel connected, which is phenomenal.
And I like the community sense, because you don't limit this to only the staff that helped you. You bring everybody that's in the building. I'm sure you send an email like, come at this time to the first floor.
Get on the intercom.
Exactly. Oh, you got an intercom. There you go. See? Hey, please, Eddie, floor number 1. You bring everybody, and it's both, everybody, the residents, the staff, the volunteers, just celebrating that person, because it's a reminder, like perhaps that person is having a rough day. Maybe one of the residents is like, why am I even here? And when they see that person shaking their kids, it's like, you know what? I want to get to that, like that person. So you don't know who inspire. You don't know who's watching or who you're going to inspire when you're shaking those kids. So that's the beauty of it. Thank you so much. As we approach Giving Tuesday and the holiday season, what are some of the most pressing needs for the Carpenter shelter? Where do you see the areas that perhaps you want more support, or that you want to tell our audience, hey, you can help us in this area?
So we kind of highlighted a little bit earlier when we were talking about the different collection drives that we have going on. The 2 biggest ones being our coat drive. We're serving not only children but adults through our 2 emergency residential shelters, but also through David's Place and our hypothermia shelter. We have our residents who are looking to be able to provide gifts for their children during the holiday season. And then, of course, expanding upon just the holidays but year-round support, financial giving is always a great way to get involved. Oftentimes people think that they may not necessarily have a large capacity to make a difference in it, but it really is even the smallest of donations that can make the biggest of impacts. We have our year-round givers. We have our monthly shelter helpers, which are the individuals or groups who contribute on a monthly basis to ensure that our services can stay open. So those are different ways that you can get involved, not only through the holidays, but year-round. Giving Tuesday, as you mentioned, is definitely a great one to get involved. It's a national holiday where communities do gather around and help support causes that are important to them. And Carpenter Shelter is definitely an organization that you can help support this Giving Tuesday season.
All right. See, there's so many avenues and so many channels how you can help, whether you're volunteering your time, monetarily as well. Whatever you're looking for, you can definitely help Carpenter Shelter. And then this question is both of you. I'm going to have Shannon answer first, and then you will answer as well, Meghan, is what's your hope for the future for both Carpenter Shelter and for how the community responds to homelessness as a whole?
This is a big picture vision, but I would love for us to make Carpenter Shelter shutter its doors for the last time because there's no one left to help.
Okay.
That people that are unstably housed can figure out how to stabilize, how to make sure that they are as resilient as possible without everything needing to crumble and come to a shelter. It's a huge vision in that sense. What I believe is that we see the best of this community, and that so many people get involved in their variety of ways, and Carpenter's is owned by the community. And we are super proud of that, and we don't take that lightly. And hopefully, with everybody continuing to band together, we can figure out a way in which the work and the mission of the shelter is something we can celebrate as a positive memory.
That's a beautiful vision.
Yeah.
Especially like you're saying, keep going with that community support, because like you were saying, the communities that makes this happen, you all run the show, but without that support, it wouldn't be possible, as we were saying earlier. So what about you, mate?
Yeah, I think Shannon kind of hit upon it. It is a very big picture idea to think of our services, of course, always being here for the past 40 years, but really wanting to see less amount of people want to have to utilize those services. I think in a broader picture of how we can start transitioning to that period is, as we discussed, it not necessarily just be focusing on putting a roof over someone's head and addressing housing affordability and housing stability, but really the community thinking in a broader picture of how we can meet the ever-evolving needs of lack of opportunities that many of our clients tend to not have. Getting the community more involved and being able to teach people financial literacy, or teaching them how to apply for jobs and build their resumes and skill sets at a young age even, especially now since we are serving a larger population of children than we have seen in the past several years, and they may not necessarily have access to that education at an early start. Having access to nutritious food is something that is very important. Another thing that we kind of highlighted upon is giving someone keys to their house is a first step. That shelter and that housing is a first step. But whenever you are in new housing and maybe have been still cut off from access to resources, you tend to be more likely to re-experience homelessness later on. So establishing those community partners with different nonprofits, different businesses, and faith-based groups to ensure that we always have access to those things as a community.
Getting those resources, necessary resources. And as Shannon was saying earlier, if somebody comes to the program, we want to make you succeed. And please don't come back again, because we want to make sure that you already have the tools to go in the real world and be successful,
Yep.
So thank you so much. And I feel like I'm not the only one that has gotten inspired by this conversation, honestly. And there's so much, about the cause, the reason why you do, the mission, and of course, what goes behind the scenes. So can you remind us, for those people that are watching or they're listening, how can they get involved? How can they donate? All those websites and volunteer programs that you were mentioning. Can you please remind us once more time?
Absolutely. So our website is carpentersshelter.org. There's many different ways to visit our website and stay tuned with those. We have a Ways of Giving page that outlines in-kind donations or physical items that we're looking for and monetary contributions. We also have our volunteer page where you can get more information about our reoccurring volunteer opportunities and how to apply and complete the orientation. And then, of course, simply just following us on social media, which a lot of people are active on nowadays, is a great way to kind of just stay up to date with the things that we have going on.
Give it a like, subscribe, everything you see about Carpenter Shelter, give it a thumbs up. We love that support. So thank you very much for that reminder. And speaking about donations, you were talking about coat drives, correct?
Yes.
Here at USSFCU, we're having, a coat drive that's going to go, and benefit Carpenter Shelter. So I was saying, Shannon, thank you for giving us the opportunity. He was saying thank you back. So we're going back and forth with the thank yous, But we just want to give back. So to our members, and non-members as well, if you're close to one of our branches, we're going to have that coat drive that's, like I said, was going to benefit Carpenter Shelter. We're also going to have a link where QR code, so if people, in case they're not in the DMV area, they can also participate and help as well. And be on the lookout for those social media posts, because we're going to take pictures with all those donations that, you will be giving. So on top of the coat drive, we're going to do a food drive as well, a toy drive, and for the first time, listen to this, a pet food drive as well. So we're going to do that,
Alexandria is the city for dog lovers.
That's what they say, So in every corner that you go to, you might see like a water bowl or somebody with their dog.
Don't forget the cats.
Oh, don't forget the cats. We love the cats. That's the reason we call it pet.
There you go.
More information to come to that. Our social media team is doing a tremendous job to promote these things. So be on the lookout for the social media, the emails. But there's ways to, collaborate with USSFCU to help these amazing nonprofits that are making a difference in our society. With that, with all this information that we have, we want to say thank you very much, Meghan, for being here with us. We appreciate you, that knowledge, all that information about volunteering. And Shannon, you are running the show, and without your support and that leadership, it wouldn't be possible. But we want to highlight the volunteers foremost, 1,200 volunteers, right? And it can be 1201 with your help. So thank you so much, and we'll see you next time. Stand up, and we just do like the moves, This is like the audio.
Also, your voice matters. Share topics, suggestions, or questions for future episodes via email at communications@ussfcu.org with the subject line podcast question or podcast topic. You just might hear it in a future episode. If you're looking to deepen your financial literacy, check out our free weekly Wednesday webinars. Secure your spot now on our website, ussfcu.org/webinars. Thank you for shining with us. Subscribe and stay tuned for our next episode.